If a computer can provide the same value at less money than a human being can provide, that computer is going to get the job.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
All right, welcome to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again in the podcast chair. This is going to be an interesting episode. I think I have spent a lot of time over the last couple of months in ChatGPT. Specifically, I have upgraded over the last couple of months to GPT-4, and I use it almost exclusively for anything that is knowledge-based. And when I say almost exclusively, I hardly ever, unless you don't count, or unless you count Google Maps, I don't really go to Google anymore. ChatGPT is my go-to. I've learned a lot over the last couple of months about how to use AI, machine learning, and what it can do for us. I've spent a lot of time in the All-Star team talking about ChatGPT-4, probably too much time. Probably rolling their eyes at this point. But the big question that is on everyone's mind, I think anybody who is aware, if you've spent just even a little bit of time in AI, ChatGPT specifically, you're going to eventually come up with the question of, is my job safe? Am I still going to be around, or is machine learning going to take over? I want to dive into that today, and I want to try to answer the question using experts, not myself, but experts' ideas, and make it specific to appraisal. I think the answer to that question, whether or not your job is safe, might surprise you. You might think that the answer that I quote unquote should give is going to be different than the answer that I do give here as we roll through and talk about technology and advancements and what the future looks like. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by two great companies. Talk about advancements in technology. How about Synapse? Synapse, of course, is helping appraisers to support their adjustments. What, Dustin? We have to support our... Yes, we do. And Synapse will help you to do that. In fact, it's amazing at what it can do. Go to spark4appraisers.com. Again, it's spark4appraisers.com, and click on that little button that talks about Synapse, and you can learn more there. Another great technology that I've been using for decades now and that continues to advance is a la mode. A la mode is helping appraisers to do the best that they can do with the technology that is out there. They're right on the cuff of what's going on. Check them out by going to alamode.com, or you can call them at 800-ALA-MODE. All right, folks, I want to do something a little bit different today. And what I want to do is present to you a little bit of an answer to the question on the topic today of what does the future of appraisal look like. As I have dived headfirst into ChatGPT, and I'll tell you quickly my experience. My son shared with me ChatGPT. At that point, it was 3. Came out in November of 2022. And I think it was either the last part of November or the first part of December, where my son, he's 22 years old, and very into technology and different things that are going on. He sent me this text and he said, "Dad, you should check this out." No context other than that. And I clicked on it and it was clunky, and I'm like, what? I don't even know what I'm looking at. What is this? And he goes, you could use it to write your blogs. I'm like, okay, whatever, right? And about a week later, he followed up and said, "So what do you think?" And I said, "Honestly, I spent like 5 minutes on it. I don't even understand what I'm looking at." And he said, "No, you really need to get into this." And I said, "Okay, well, talk to me. What is this? What are we talking about here?" As I started to learn more and more about AI, I became more and more fascinated with what AI can do. I became more and more fascinated with the idea of ChatGPT, but specifically about machine learning and what it does and what is required to make it work properly. The more I get into it and the more I understand it, and the more I learn about the types of questions that you can ask, and more importantly, refine, the more I come up with the same question that you have come to this podcast with. Dustin, is my job safe? As an appraiser, am I going to have a job in the future? The answer to that, folks, is a little bit up in the air, but I can tell you that the answer might surprise you, really. And what I want to do is share with you a recent interview from an individual that you may know his name, you may not. His name is Geoffrey Hinton. He used to work for Google in the AI side of things. He quit. I don't know about specifically in order to have interviews like this, but it was part of his process, meaning part of his reasoning for quitting. It may not be the full reason, but part of his reasoning for quitting Google was so that he could openly speak about AI. He did an interview recently where he really went into the impact that AI can have in our world. Part of that interview near the end was specific to jobs and job replacement, because everybody is like, man, am I going to have a job in the future? And appraisers are no different, right? The question on the table is, are we going to have a job in the future? By the way, we're going to do something fun after the break, so stay tuned, because we're going to try to answer that question using AI itself. But I want to share with you, and I'm not sure exactly how well this is going to work. We're going to do the best we can. I'm going to move my microphone over here, and we're going to see how this works. But I want to share with you, and by the way, if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. I hope I'm going to share my screen. Not something I've done on my podcast before, so this will be interesting. Let me just do this and hit share, and you should be able to now see the interview. Okay, here we go. We're just going to play about a minute of this. I want you to pay attention. He is not speaking specifically about appraisers right now, but he is speaking about, well, you'll hear the question from the interviewer and then the answer from Geoffrey Hinton. Here we go.
We haven't even touched on job displacement, which is just my mistake for not bringing it up. Is this just going to eat up just job after job after job after job?
I think it's going to make jobs different. People are going to be doing the more creative end and less of the routine end.
But what's the creative if it can write the poem and make the movie and all of that?
Well, if you go back in history and look at ATMs, these cash machines came along and people said that's the end of bank tellers. It wasn't actually the end of bank tellers. The bank tellers now deal with more complicated things. And take coders. So people say, these things can do simple coding and usually get it right. You just need to get it to write the program and then just check it. So you'll be able to work 10 times as fast. Well, either you could have 10% of the programmers, or you could have the same number of the programmers producing 10 times as much stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know how well you could hear that, but let me basically recap his answer. So the question was, are our jobs safe? Basically, I mean, in gist, he's saying, do we need to be worried about the future and whether or not we're going to have a job in the future? And Mr. Hinton's answer to that was that the creative jobs, yes. The technical jobs, maybe we need to be a little bit worried about that. Now, appraisers, I want you to step back for just a second and ask yourself, is your job creative or is it technical? Yes, I am pausing for effect because I think the answer to that is, well, Dustin, both. I have for years as a coach talked about how appraisers are in the realm of both the arts and the science, right? There's data science, and there's the ability to be able to pick apart quantitatively data. But then there's the creative part where we interpret that data, or we utilize our expertise to analyze that data. Now, my question for you, appraisers, and this is a very serious question because I think it goes to the realm of whether or not we have a job in the future. And I know that sounds dramatic. Dustin's being a drama queen, but folks, I think that those that just push this aside and go, "Oh, robots will never replace appraisers," is short-sighted. The more I learn about ChatGPT specifically, and there's lots of other AI learning out there, and you will see Google come up more to the marketplace with theirs. They've been a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more safety conscious. By the way, part of this interview with Mr. Hinton also goes into safety and whether or not robots, I mean, the whole iRobot movie idea, can robots take over the world and destroy humankind? And honestly, his answer was maybe. And I know recently Elon Musk said that he is more worried about AI than he is about nuclear weapons. Now, again, I don't want to throw a bunch of fear out there. That's not my purpose here. My purpose is to say that if you're going to say that there's nothing to see here, and our jobs are safe, and not give credentials where credentials are due, I think that we're being short-sighted. I think that we are short-circuiting ourselves. I think that we need to be careful about how we approach this. Going back to the interview and back to the question on the board, will appraisers be replaced in the future? Folks, I would say the answer is, it depends. It depends on what type of appraiser you are. Let me be more specific. There is a term out there that has been around since the time I started doing appraisals, and I'll be very, very transparent. I probably fit into this model in the beginning of my career. The term is a form filler, and it's used as a derogatory term with regard to the appraisers who really don't put a whole lot of effort into what they do, where they see a problem, they see a nail, and they have a hammer, and every problem is a nail, if that makes sense. I kind of mix my metaphors there. But the idea is that every appraisal question is a 1004. And a lot of us, and I would even say, I'm even going to go so far as stick my neck out and say the majority of appraisers were trained, taught, and educated to be form fillers. They learned from their mentor, who passed it on to them with regard to 1, 2, 3 any street, appraisal equals 1004. And not only that, and there's nothing wrong with there's many things wrong with the 1004 form, but there's nothing wrong in principle with the 1004 form. But the idea that we're just going to take the 1004 at face value with really no telling the story is where we get ourselves in trouble. That you're clicking the boxes. Let's just take highest and best use, for example. How many of us actually go through the process of a highest and best use analysis every time we do an appraisal? Or how many of us simply click the box and say, well, it's a residential neighborhood, click, boom, move on? If the latter describes you, folks, I would say that you probably need to be a little bit worried about your job in the future. Remember what Jeffrey Hinton said. Creative jobs, do we need to worry about jobs in the future? Creative jobs, no. Technical jobs, yes. If your job is the same thing over and over and over and over again, you need to be worried. Now, I would say we may get to the point that even creative jobs, there may be some fear of that as well. But you are going to insulate yourself much, much better if you can look at your job from a different perspective and provide value to your customers that AI cannot. Economies work because we find the value and we provide it. I don't remember who it was. I give credit to different people, but a wise man once said that if you want to make money, find what people need or want and provide it. It's that simple. And the same is true with appraisal. Folks, if a computer can provide the same value at less money than a human being can provide, that computer is going to get the job. Let me repeat that. If a computer and a human are competing for the same work, and a computer can do it for a fraction of the cost of a human being, guess who's going to get the job? And thus, who is going to be out a job? Folks, the answer to the question on the table today, will appraisers be replaced by AI? Here's the part that may be surprising to you. You might think that Dustin Harris, the appraiser coach, would say, "Oh, don't worry, folks, don't worry at all. We've got a great career ahead of us." And folks, I would say that, but I would caveat it. And I would say we have a great career ahead of us if we can provide value on the creation side that AI cannot. As machine learning gets better, appraisers who are form fillers need to worry about their job. Now, I know that's bold. I know that is maybe reckless, but I qualify that, and that's why I spent so much time in the beginning of the podcast creating my foundation of resource of where this opinion comes from. I have not just spent a couple of minutes in AI. I spend probably on average an hour to 2 hours a day, 7 days a week in ChatGPT. Some days more, some days less, but I spend a great deal of time learning about a great deal of things. Now, ChatGPT can be a great resource for appraisers as well. It has helped me to be better at marketing, to create information out there that can be utilized by other people. It can be a wonderful tool to move your career forward. And I guess that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. If I haven't made it yet, I'm trying to make it now. AI can be a hindrance to your job and your progress in the future, or it can be a help. It is entirely up to you. When we get back from the break, I want to find out from ChatGPT 4 if we will have a job in the future. First want to pause and talk about some other great technology out there. And one of them is Synapse. Folks, if you have not heard about Synapse, it is something you should hear about. Okay. In brief, it is the ability to take a great deal of data or very little data, if you're in an area like I am, and crunch the numbers in such a way that makes sense so that you can now apply your expertise and decide what to use and what not to use in your appraisal reports. If you want to have a tool that can help you to support your adjustments, Synapse is that tool. Go to spark4appraisers.com. Again, it's spark4appraisers.com. We're also sponsored by A la Mode. A la Mode, of course, is the software. Well, I've been using it for almost 3 decades. They've been in business for almost 4 decades, helping that's right, almost 40 years, helping appraisers to have the tools that they need to create quality appraisal reports. Folks, it's the best. Check them out. Go to alamode.com. You can pick up the phone and call them. Have a conversation with them. They've got a great sales team over there. Their technical support is second to none. alamode.com or 800-ALAMODE. All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out in the Appraiser Coach podcast chair right behind me there. If you have not joined us on YouTube, I highly recommend, especially for this next part. I'm going to show my screen. We're going to go through an exercise that I think will be fun. I hope it will be fun. So let's do that now. I'm going to share my screen now. We're going to go like this and go here. Okay, you should see on your screen, let's just make sure we get the full effect here, the ChatGPT box that I use on a pretty regular basis. Now, I will say to you that I have never done the exercise that I'm about to do. The question on the agenda today is, will appraisers have a job in the future? I think that I've kind of answered that in the beginning of the podcast today. Let me recap. I think that if you can still find creativity in your job, if you can find a way to stand out from the competition, and yes, part of that competition is AI itself, is machine learning itself, then yes, I believe that you will have a job in the future. If you are a quote unquote form filler, somebody who simply goes through the process of a 1004 over and over and over and over again, the question on the board of whether you will have a job in the future, I think, is much more open to scrutiny. Okay, let's do something fun. In the remaining minutes that we have here today, I want to spend a little bit of time in ChatGPT finding out from it what it thinks about. And I have no idea how this will go. I have not done this process before, other than on a very limited basis. I did do a webinar for my All-Star team in February of 2023, where we talked about ChatGPT and we dove into it. And I think one of the questions is the first question that I'm going to ask ChatGPT. And by the way, back then it was not 4, it was, I don't believe, I think I was still on 3 or 3.5 at that point. Okay, so the question on the table, and be patient with me because I've got to talk and type at the same time here, is will AI replace real estate? By the way, you have to differentiate between appraiser and real estate appraiser. I found that AI often goes to a regular appraiser, jewelry appraiser, car appraiser, airplane appraiser often, and not utilize real estate. So will AI replace real estate appraisers in the future? Let's see what ChatGPT has to say. If you are on the podcast, I will read most of this to you. I might not read every word, but ChatGPT comes back and says, AI and automation have already begun to impact the real estate industry, and their influence is likely to grow in the future. While AI may not completely replace human appraisers, it is expected to significantly change the way that appraisals are conducted. Automatic valuation models, AVMs, are increasingly being used to estimate property values, leverage vast amounts of data, and advance algorithms to make accurate predictions. These AVMs can process information more quickly and efficiently than humans, and their accuracy is improving over time. It goes on to talk about there are several factors that humans play in the appraisal process. Check these out. Number 1, local knowledge. Number 2, subjectivity. Okay. A real estate appraisal is not entirely objective, it says. Verification. Despite the increase of accuracy of AI-based appraisal tools, human appraisers may still be needed to verify the accuracy of valuations. And regulation. Many jurisdictions have specific licenses and certification requirements for real estate appraisers, which could slow down the adoption of AI-driven appraisal solutions. Basically, folks, what that means is those that utilize your service like the idea that you are licensed. That license, even though we don't necessarily like it, may actually be the thing that saves us, not in the long run, but at least prolongs the change in the appraisal industry. In summary, again, I'm back to reading. In summary, AI is likely to play an increasingly significant role in real estate appraisals, but human appraisers will still be needed for their expertise, judgment, and ability to provide context to AI-generated valuations. Notice what that said, folks, and I think this is really the key here, right? The idea is, when you come at this question with, will appraisers be replaced by AI? I think the answer is no, but I think the answer is also it depends on how you utilize the AI. The best answer that I can give is those that will have the most value in the future are going to be the appraisers who utilize AI as a tool, like any other tool, like a la mode, like Synapse, like the sponsors on this program. These are tools, but eventually you have to make the decision as to how to use those tools. So will appraisers be replaced in the future? I don't think so. Will we need to change the way that we do appraisals? Absolutely. Thank you for joining me today, folks. It's really been fun. And I'm sure this will change. This will be a topic that we'll come back to over and over again as technology changes and advancements are made. But in the end, folks, the answer to the question, will you be replaced in the future, has to come down, I think, to it depends. It depends on the value that you are going to bring to the marketplace. If you want to know more about how to use ChatGPT in appraisal work, I'm using it in my appraisal work right now. It is part of the process of creating and completing an appraisal. If you want to know how I do that, the All-Star team is where you want to be. Go to theappraisercoach.com/membership, sign up for the All-Star team, and go back to February of 2023 and watch the webinar. It was over an hour where we were in ChatGPT and I was showing you specifically how to use ChatGPT and other like technology in your appraisal work, including marketing, including business development, and including writing appraisal reports. Thank you for joining me today, folks. Hope this has been valuable to you. And if it has, go out there and create some value of your own.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.